Hello and welcome back to Film Exaggeration. Remember in the 2000s when there were a bunch of book adaptations that were trying to be the next Harry Potter? From Aragon to Percy Jackson to Cirque du Freak to The Golden Compass, movies based on famous children/young adult books that wanted to start a franchise but just couldn't pull it off. Some managed it, like Chronicles of Narnia and Twilight if you want to count that, but they mostly failed. That doesn't mean they were all bad. I would put Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events in that category, and I love that film. And another one that kind of fits in that category that I also really like is the 2008 Nickelodeon movie, The Spiderwick Chronicles. Directed by Mark Waters, The Spiderwick Chronicles is based on the books of the same name by Tony DiTerlizza and Holly Black. It follows the three Grace children, twins Jared and Simon, both played by Freddie Highmore, and Mallory, played by Sarah Bolger. They have just moved to a new house with their recently divorced mother, played by Mary Louise Parker, and in the attic, Jared finds a book that tells of all kinds of magical creatures like goblins, brownies, and griffins. And as he finds out, they're all real, living amongst them. The three meet a brownie named Thimbletack, voiced by Martin Short, a hobgoblin named Hobsqueal, voiced by Seth Rogen, and they learn of an evil shape-shifting ogre named Mulgarath, who wants the book in order to become more powerful. So to put this in the category of franchise wannabes might not be exactly fair, as this probably wasn't meant to have a sequel given that it adapts all 5 books. Well, sort of. I have actually read all 5 of them, although not the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th since this movie came out. Now some may think taking the 5 books and putting them in one movie is a bad idea, but these books are short, like really short. I'm talking less than 100 pages each. And also, as far as I can remember, they barely take anything from the 4th book. So yeah, despite being an adaptation of 5 books, it's actually paced pretty well. But it does mean that there likely wouldn't have been a sequel. So while it may not be a franchise wannabe, I do still think it qualifies as a Harry Potter wannabe. The premise is about a fantasy world that lives alongside our own that we can't see. And yes, I know this kind of stuff existed long before Harry Potter, but this just feels like it'd be in the same universe. I mean, hell, the concept of someone writing a book about magical creatures is literally the premise of Fantastic Beasts. What makes it work, similar to HP, is the world and lore. I just love the fantasy element of this film, and all the magical creatures and how they make it work in this world. For example, the brownie is normally very nice and helpful, even a little skittish.
I said, Master, we must destroy it. He said, we must protect the book, keep it in the circle, safe from the ogre.
But if he's upset, then he turns into an angry boggart.
And looked and found the book, and from the chest the thing was stolen, you foolish boy!
Or fairies that give you a cursed fruit that makes it so you never crave human food again. And all these creatures can turn invisible, and the only way to see them are the magic spyglass, or have a hobgoblin spit in your eye.
I have given you the sight, a gift only a hobgoblin can bestow.
I just love stories like this, where they mix the normal and fantasy in the same world, and there's just a creative, fun atmosphere to it. Some may say it's a bit too generic with the fantastical elements, as in it doesn't add enough of its own spin the way other stories do, and I could see that, but personally, I like the basic fantasy it goes for. And I think it adds a few things like the magic circle that keeps out bad creatures, and the fact that goblins can be burned by salt and can be defeated by spaghetti sauce.
You've been hitting the sauce again!
No, this way is much cooler. It melts them like fucking acid. Perfect family entertainment. I like this family too. The mom is the typical single mother with kids who's stressed out and overworked, so basically Mary from E.T. except without all the sex references. Mallory is a fencer who wants to protect her brothers, and similar to Michael, she tries to keep their mom calm when things are going bad.
We'll clean it up, Mom. You go to bed. You need to sleep.
Jared is the troublemaker who is most knowledgeable of the fantasy world, so kinda like Elliot. So is Simon like Gertie? Not really, he's honestly the most boring of the characters. He likes animals and is a bit more scared than the other two. I mean, Freddie Highmore is good in the role, he's good in both roles. All the actors are good. Mary Louise Parker doesn't have much screen time, but she does a great job acting like she has to raise 3 kids alone, one of which is a bit of a little shit.
I hate you and I don't want to live with you.
The special effects are a bit cheesy, but they're supposed to be. The goblins and other fairies are meant to be a bit cartoony. I also just love the fall look of it. And the action scenes are a lot of fun. The director, Mark Waters, before this did some really good movies like Freaky Friday and Mean Girls, and later Magic Camp. And it was written by a trio that includes Carrie Kirkpatrick, who wrote Chicken Run and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and later directed Imagine That and Smallfoot, David Barenbaum, who wrote Elf and The Haunted Mansion, and John Sayles, who wrote Piranha and apparently an early draft of E.T. That explains a lot. My favorite scene comes late in the film, during the climax, so it might be a bit of a spoiler. You see throughout the film, Jared has been trying to get in contact with their dad so he can take them, but he learns from Mallory that he's not coming. However, during the final battle, he comes in, ready to reconcile, but Jared is skeptical.
No. Not until you tell me what you need to tell me. The last time we were on the phone, you said the next time we met, you had something you needed to say to me. So, what is it?
I just wanted to tell you that I love you. Jared?
Wrong answer.
Wow! Jared! What did you do? He's not Dad! What? Oh my god.
There are some flaws, probably the biggest is the tone whiplash in some scenes. For example, when Jared learns his dad isn't coming to get them, we get a few seconds of sadness and then they immediately have to summon a griffin. They do have to take out parts of the book that would have been cool to see, but the general tone and spirit of the books is there. However, they changed the ending. The books have a bit of a bittersweet end for Arthur Spiderwick, the guy who wrote the books, and his daughter Lucy. It felt very mature for a book meant for very young children, but here they change it so both of them get a schmaltzy happy ending. Still, I do think the Spiderwick Chronicles is a pretty good flick. I'd say it's in a similar vein to something like Zuthura, a fun children's adventure story with some decent dramatic bits. Well, I've got a lot of work to do, and at the end of this, I feel it's gonna either lead to vengeance or death. Hopefully vengeance. See you later.
So the book was in here, with a big warning that said do not read.
And you read it? It's a book. I didn't think reading it would unleash goblin fury, okay?